first embark on a relationship, it tends to be candles, romance, fairy tales, knights in shining armor, if that's your thing, damsels in distress, save me, I save you, you rock me, you rock with you, and every other love song is playing out in your head. And those are the early days of love, joy, happiness, bliss. We play an exaggerated form of who we are. Okay? As much as you have a strength, be it a physical strength, you will show your strength to prowess. You wear short sleeve shirts and show your biceps. Or if you're demure and petite, you will make sure your figure is accentuated to that extent if you feel that's a positive trait. We exaggerate who we are. We live up to the archetypes of what we will see as a ritual of a relationship. What that means is we will provide the mythological figures that demonstrated that we need to go through this courting ritual. So you win me and I win you, and I lost to you and I fell into your arms, and all those wonderful stories that we tell ourselves, be it in movies, be it when we were kids and read those fairy tales and all those amazing stories, right? And that's what's great in the beginning, but how long does that story last? For some of us, it might be weeks. For some of us, it might be months. If you're lucky, it might be years. So the whole mythological story is one that is powerful, right? And gets you caught up in it. And we all buy into that romance, that fairy tale, and then we are flying literally with that story. We are off the planet. At some point though, as much as we may be feeling like we're out in space, you have to eventually return to Earth. And that's where we gradually return to Earth, and then we find ourselves slowly facing up to reality, slowly facing up to a routine, a structure of how life is. And what happens is the fairy tale seems to erode itself. How? Because as much as you want to live up to it, the other person seems to be caught up in a routine and structure. And you finding that you're not necessarily getting the script that you wanted, the story you wanted. And lo and behold, the exaggerated form of what the person was seems to disappear. And as we return back to Earth, we find that we have to get caught up in just meeting up to life's requirements rather than living beyond what we wanted in terms of life and living up to that story of what we wanted. All right? And then what happens is we get caught up in that story, and then our story is not played out. And the other person, we start seeing the cracks in the other person. And the cracks within our stuff, in ourselves, start manifesting as well. And lo and behold, those shadows, the dark side that we all seem to carry within us, come to the fore. And we project it onto the other person. Why? Because we're so close to them, so close in proximity, we mirror what we feel inside onto them. The world that exists within us manifests around us. And lo and behold, we get caught up in that energy. And then we start projecting stuff and they start acting, and we all start playing roles in the process. So in order sometimes to be abused in a relationship, we need to find someone who is abusive. In order to have lost control in a relationship, someone has to have no control. In order for you to feel overwhelmed by others, there has to be someone who's acting in an arrogant, obnoxious manner. In order to have low energy, there's someone who is draining you of energy and endeavoring to assume a higher energy position. In order to be abused in a relationship, as we said, someone has to be abusive, who has to have this hammer in their hand and endeavor to make you into a nail. What happens is, I'm not saying it's you and I who facilitate abuse in a relationship, but generally a general relationship is between two people. And we facilitate sometimes people behaving in a particular way towards us. And we allow it. Why? Because if you think of it, anger, shouting, screaming is high energy, brings up the cortisol levels, brings up the stress. We get caught up in that drama and we dare not let go of that drama. We dare not let go of that story. And when we speak to our psychologists or psychiatrists or therapists, we then relate that drama, that story. And the biggest challenge then comes for us to let go of that story. Let go of that movie. No matter how destructive it is to us, we dare not let go, because that's all we know. And if we let go of our story, what story do we have? And human beings, we live by stories in our lives. If we let go of it, we feel lifeless. We feel empty. We feel there's nothing within us. And to recreate a story that has as much drama, excitement, energy, even though it's negative, is challenging. Then we feel we do not exist. Because the mind then, the ego, is caught up in that story. Because then, sadly, when you're being abused, you have someone to protect, you have some person to protect. And we get caught up in it rather than saying, let's go. Let us leave this physically abusive relationship. So I'll ask this in the form of a question. Given that you're in a destructive relationship and you want to seek balance, what do most of us do? What would you do? Very few of us say we will leave the relationship. Most of us endeavor to seek solution. But if it's physically destructive, you have to leave. In fact, if I ask the question in a different way, it's your 16-year-old daughter in an physically abusive relationship. Do you tell her, try and find balance, try and solve it? What do you tell her? Now I see vigorous shakes of head. Well, get the hell out of there. I'll come with the gun I never have, with the whole posse, with the whole army to make sure you are safe. When it comes to other people, we know the solution to our lives, to their lives. When it comes to our lives, it's far too complicated. There's too much enmeshment. Doctor, you just don't understand. I've been with this person for years. We justify the destruction because our minds are too caught up in it. And I've had patients just the other day told me, and she was to some extent, not physically fortunately, but one might argue emotionally difficult relationship. Says, it sounds like, what do you want to do? And the one option that was not available was to leave. Why? Because she says it would be culturally unacceptable for her to leave. And she accepted that this is my culture, therefore I should not leave. And that's how we sometimes justify our decision making. So we need to recognize we need to move forth between the two spaces. We cannot be in a negative space, nor in this of low energy, neither in a negative space of high energy. We need to move forth. And then it comes to you and I changing. You and I shifting who we are into a far more powerful space. And what that demands is, over the years I've had people ask me, how does the other person change? They can never change. The only person that can change is you. As Gandhi said, be the change you want to see. Because by changing yourself, you change your environment around you, you change how you see the world, you change how you see yourself, and by default, you shift the people around you. People respond to you differently. You know this. Over the years, we are a much older crowd, India, well, not much older, but above 18 as such, is that as you grow, you know the way, when you shifted in attitude, people around you shifted in how they saw you, how they respond to you. People respond to people's energies. And that's what we need to do. We need to shift ourselves to a better space. And what we then need to seek is authenticity in who we are. We need to find balance in who we are. All right? And we need to get to a far more powerful position. We need to make ourselves strong, to be strong, and to facilitate strength around us. We need to make ourselves at the same time light, so that it brings light to us. We need to make ourselves gentle and compassionate towards ourselves, so it facilitates gentleness and compassion in the world around us.